Every single year on my birthday, my parents looked straight past me and handed the cake, the gifts, and all the attention to my younger sister, calling her their miracle child. I spent an entire decade pretending the pain didn't bother me, convincing myself that if I just stayed quiet and kept my head down, maybe one day they'd finally see me. But when I turned 18, they crossed a line they could never uncross. In front of our entire extended family, they announced that my milestone birthday party was actually a celebration to buy my sister a car using the savings account my late grandmother had left specifically for my college fund. That was the exact moment something inside me finally snapped. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I walked straight to the center of the room, grabbed the microphone, and exposed 10 years of cruelty, favoritism, and stolen money. Follow my story all the way to the end, and comment the city you're watching from, so I can see just how far my voice reached. My name is Olivia, and at 28 years old, looking back at my childhood still feels like watching somebody else's nightmare. For the first 5 years of my life, things were pretty normal. My parents, Arthur and Evelyn, were attentive enough and seemed genuinely happy to have me. But everything changed the moment my younger sister, Chloe, was born. My mother had suffered multiple miscarriages and spent half a decade going through exhausting fertility treatments before Chloe finally came into the world. Because of everything they had endured, my parents didn't simply see her as another daughter. They practically crowned her the untouchable miracle child of our family. From that day forward, the oxygen in our house seemed to belong entirely to Chloe, while I became nothing more than a background shadow. The most painful part of this whole dynamic wasn't just the everyday favoritism. It was what they did to my birthday year after year. Chloe was born in late October, just 2 weeks before my November birthday. Instead of giving me one day that was actually mine, my parents created a twisted annual tradition. My birthday was transformed into a huge family celebration supposedly honoring the miracle of Chloe's arrival. Every November 12th, our house would fill with guests, extravagant decorations, and expensive catering, but almost none of it was for me. While everyone raised their glasses to Chloe's delicate health and showered her with presents, I was handed a serving tray and told to clear empty plates and refill drinks for the guests. My parents expected me to smile, act like the grateful older sister, and quietly accept that my own existence was basically a footnote to Chloe's grand arrival. I was an unpaid servant at my own birthday party. As the years passed, this systematic erasure became an unspoken household rule. On my 10th birthday, I spent weeks dreaming about a simple chocolate fudge cake. I couldn't wait to blow out my candles and finally have something that felt like it belonged to me. Instead, my mother walked through the door carrying a giant strawberry shortcake, because Chloe preferred fruit over heavy cocoa. When I finally blew out a single lonely candle shoved into a leftover slice of cake, Chloe threw a fit because she wanted to make the wish herself. My father immediately scolded me for making my little sister cry on our family's special day. I remember standing there thinking, how is this somehow my fault? By the time my 16th birthday rolled around, the favoritism had turned into outright cruelty. My parents announced a weekend getaway, making me believe they were finally planning the Sweet 16 I had secretly dreamed about. Instead, we spent 3 miserable days at a packed amusement park riding nothing but toddler-friendly attractions because Chloe didn't like roller coasters. That was when I really learned to swallow my pain and hide my accomplishments. When I made the high school honor roll or won a regional track meet, my parents barely looked up from Chloe's kindergarten finger paintings. Any compliment I received was instantly redirected toward her. Chloe did such a great job too. Look how talented Chloe is. Don't make Chloe feel left out. Everything always came back to her. The only thing that kept me sane during those suffocating teenage years was a secret my late grandmother had whispered to me before she passed away. Nana had seen right through my parents' obsession. She knew exactly what they were doing. Behind their backs, she had quietly created a $25,000 trust fund exclusively in my name for college tuition. That account became my secret lifeline. My guaranteed ticket out of that house the second I reached adulthood. For years, I held on to that secret like it was a lifeline. Whenever things got bad, I reminded myself that one day I would leave. One day I would have my own life. One day nobody would be able to make me feel invisible again. Then my 18th birthday approached, and suddenly my parents changed their tune. My father pulled me aside with an affectionate smile and promised that this year would be different. He told me they were renting an upscale private banquet hall to throw a formal milestone celebration specifically for me, to make up for all the birthdays and achievements they had neglected over the years. For the first time in my entire life, I allowed myself to believe that maybe my parents had finally recognized me as their daughter. Maybe, after all these years, they finally got it. I wanted so badly to believe that. On the evening of the party, the venue looked absolutely breathtaking. More than 60 guests filled the room. Aunts, uncles, cousins, family friends, and church neighbors had all gathered to celebrate what I thought was my transition into adulthood. I wore a modest navy dress I had purchased with my own part-time earnings. Standing near the entrance, I watched relatives hand me cards and congratulate me on turning 18. For once, people were actually looking at me. I remember feeling nervous, excited, and almost overwhelmed. Then the lights dimmed. My father tapped his champagne glass against the center podium and stepped forward to deliver the keynote toast. A nervous flutter moved through my chest. Tonight is an extraordinary milestone for our family. My father began, his voice echoing through the banquet hall. But instead of looking at me, his eyes locked onto 13-year-old Chloe. Our precious miracle child was just accepted into St. Jude's Academy. To honor this incredible blessing, Evelyn and I are proud to present Chloe with a brand new luxury crossover parked right outside. Gasps of surprise spread across the room. But my father wasn't finished. And we were able to make this wonderful dream come true by liquidating Nana's old educational savings account and paying for the vehicle in full. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Every ounce of warmth drained from my body as the betrayal hit me like an icy shockwave. The final illusion I had been holding onto for years shattered right in front of me. Chloe squealed with excitement and rushed toward the podium to grab the oversized car keys. And something strange happened. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt completely calm. It was the kind of calm that comes right before a storm. Before Chloe could step in front of the microphone, I walked directly to the center of the stage and pulled it right out of my father's hand. The banquet hall went completely silent. For 18 years, I had swallowed my words. Tonight, I finally let them out. My voice came through the sound system clear, steady, and razor-sharp. I thought my parents were simply blind to what they were doing. I said, but tonight proves they're completely shameless. My mother gasped and rushed toward me with her hand stretched out. I stepped backward and fixed my eyes on the more than 60 stunned guests staring at me. Every single person in this room was invited tonight. Under the pretense of celebrating my 18th birthday, I gestured around the room. Just like when I turned 10, when my birthday cake was taken away from me. Just like my sweet 16, when my birthday trip was turned into Chloe's personal playground. Nobody moved. For 10 straight years, Arthur and Evelyn have erased my existence to feed their obsession with their golden child. A collective murmur rolled through the room. But I wasn't done. I turned toward my father. And tonight, you stole the $25. 000 Nana legally left in trust for my college tuition. You transferred it without my authorization and used it to buy a vehicle for a 13-year-old who can't even legally drive it. My father's face turned a deep, furious red. Aunt Margaret suddenly stood from her table in complete shock. Her jaw dropped. Uncle David demanded an immediate explanation from my father. Within seconds, the perfect, saintly image my parents had carefully built over 2 decades began falling apart right in front of everyone. And honestly, I didn't stick around to watch them scramble. I placed the microphone gently back on the podium, turned around, and walked through the heavy brass doors of the banquet hall. Behind me, the room erupted. Aunts, uncles, and relatives swarmed the stage, demanding financial records and confronting my father as he desperately tried to control the damage. I didn't look back, not even once. I hailed a cab outside the venue and headed straight home while the neighborhood was still dark and quiet. The moment I stepped through the front door, an unbelievable sense of lightness washed over me. I didn't cry. I didn't hesitate. I went upstairs, pulled 3 large duffel bags from underneath my bed, and started packing everything that truly belonged to me. My clothes, my birth certificate, my high school diplomas, and one small framed photograph of Nana holding me as a baby. I left behind every item my parents had ever purchased out of obligation. Within 45 minutes, my entire life had been packed into 3 bags sitting beside the front porch. I pulled out my phone and ordered a rideshare to Aunt Margaret's downtown apartment, knowing she had already texted me and offered me her guest room. As the car pulled up to the curb, I reached into my pocket, removed my house key, and placed it directly in the center of the kitchen counter beside an unpaid catering bill. By the time my parents' headlights swept into the driveway, and they started screaming at me for ruining their precious evening, I was already gone. The fallout from that night ripped through our extended family like wildfire. Aunt Margaret didn't waste a single second. The next morning, she connected me with an estate attorney who formally audited Nana's original trust documents. When the legal notice arrived at my parents' doorstep warning them about severe criminal penalties for the unauthorized liquidation of the trust, their entire world started unraveling. My grandfather cut off all financial support for my father's small logistics business. Our relatives refused to attend future family gatherings. And the polished, self-righteous reputation my parents had spent 2 decades building within our local community and church circle completely disintegrated overnight. Church members whispered behind their backs. Neighbors stopped waving when they saw them. Even Chloe's private academy revoked her registration after rumors about the stolen trust reached the admissions board. Faced with mounting humiliation, legal threats, and complete social isolation, my parents launched a desperate campaign to pull me back in. My phone lit up with dozens of missed calls, frantic text messages, and tearful voicemails every single hour. My mother left a 3-minute recording sobbing hysterically, claiming the entire situation had been some terrible misunderstanding. She insisted they had always loved me equally. My father sent long emails begging me to drop the attorney and sign a public joint statement claiming my speech had simply been a dramatic teenage prank. A prank. That was their solution. They weren't sorry because they had spent 18 years breaking my spirit. They were terrified because their golden pedestal had finally collapsed. Every apology they offered was coded in self-preservation. They weren't asking me to forgive them because they suddenly understood what they had done. They wanted me to repair the reputation they had destroyed through their own unchecked greed and hollow favoritism. I never answered a single call. With the help of Aunt Margaret's attorney, my parents were legally forced to return Nana's $25,000 directly into an escrow account under my exclusive control. For the first time, that money was truly mine. I used every penny to put myself through college. I graduated with honors. And I graduated completely debt-free. Now, at 28 years old, I live in a bright, sunlit apartment 3 states away. I work a fulfilling job in digital marketing, surrounded by friends who genuinely value me for who I am. Every November 12th, 2 predictable text messages appear on my screen. One from my mother, one from my father, both wishing me a happy birthday, both asking for another chance to talk. I delete them without reading, because some wounds can't be patched over with convenient apologies. Sometimes walking away isn't cruel. Sometimes it's the only way to finally choose yourself. And after 18 years of being treated like I didn't matter, I had finally learned something important. I mattered. My future mattered. And Nana's final gift to me wasn't just $25,000. It was a way out. So tell me honestly, would you have forgiven my parents after years of neglect and favoritism? Or did I make the right call by packing my bags and never looking back? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And check out the two stories on your screen right now.